Okay, so we've had the chance to see the trend of 5G handsets at more affordable prices, and there's definitely some stiff competition out there. With that in mind, 5 months after its release, let's examine whether or not Google's Pixel 4a 5G is still a top contender in 2021. Let's go. If any of these videos have helped you, please consider hitting us with that thumbs up, hitting the subscribe, and hitting that notification bell so you'll be notified when we upload the latest content. While foreign markets are kicking butt with regard to phones which offer a relatively low barrier to entry price point, that isn't the case here in the States. But manufacturers have been releasing handsets well below the $500 to $600 mark for a few months here. And while the 4a 5G is on the high end of some 5G phones released below that price point, it does have some features which may justify that price for many shoppers. Despite its plastic back and frame, the phone doesn't feel cheap. It feels light and great in hand, but not cheap. And the matte finish on the rear is not a fingerprint magnet, thank Anansi. Some of the competition in this price range can't say the same, but what they also can't say is that they have OLED HDR screens. The 6.2-inch Full HD Plus screen on the Google Pixel 4a 5G is one of the best in class, but that's only part of the story when it comes to the quality with which you're going to consume content with this phone. Like the Nord N10 5G and T-Mobile's Revel 5G and Verizon's TCL 5G UW, this phone has stereo speakers, one of which is front firing. And with that comes a solid movie and music experience which beats out other phones which do not have HDR-ready OLEDs or even pricier phones which have only mono speakers. But that really is an issue of nuance where screen quality is concerned. Some of the phones I mentioned, though they may be LCDs, still kick out some pretty solid images. So where does Google's phone take the cake here? Well, it doesn't. While it's one of the top competitors in this class, I wouldn't call the display light years beyond any of its competition to the point of being a standout in the crowd. The good news is that you're still getting a display that is bright and vibrant, and being an OLED, it will give you deep blacks and solid color reproduction, as you can see here in The Witcher, where other displays I've looked at have been dark, even OLEDs. The visual content is consistent across apps and video players, where the sound experience will, of course, vary by app. For example, The Witcher peaked at 80 dB, while Thor Ragnarok did so around 70 dB. That's a pretty significant difference, but is minimized when you connect your headphones via the 3.5mm jack or via Bluetooth. The phone supports aptX HD, which is a great audio Bluetooth standard for bringing you high fidelity sound wirelessly. Audio through the 3.5mm jack is okay, but doesn't get loud enough in some cases. Headphones are fine, but when I've plugged it up to the aux port of my car, for example, I could definitely use more volume from the phone itself, having to crank my car stereo near its max at freeway speeds. And while the Pixel is a solid device for content consumption, like I said, I don't know that those areas stand out among the crowd of similarly priced phones. Where the Pixel shines, and probably will place it as the top contender for your hard-earned money in 2021, are two places: the cameras and Google support. So let's talk about those two areas. Being a Google phone, the Pixel 4a 5G is going to get 3 years of OS and security updates, which is more than any other Android device in this price class. So your Android 11 Pixel today will be an Android 14 device tomorrow. That's the great news if you tend to hold on to your phones for a few years. And be sure to come back to the channel for videos on the latest features of Android as new OSs are released so that you can get the most out of your phone. Case in point, check out my Android 11 tips and tricks video up here, and we'll also drop that link in the description below. The other area, of course, that the Pixel 4a 5G is going to outshine the competition is the cameras and their artificial intelligence, also referred to as computational photography. Google's cameras are among the most consistent when it comes to image quality, producing images which have solid contrast, skin tones, handle trouble conditions well, and do a great job of utilizing tech to give you those neat camera tricks like bokeh and color pops when you jump into the camera's editing tools. At $450, this phone punches well above its weight when you consider phones that cost hundreds more and don't handle this as well, or those that give it a run for its money. At only 8 megapixels, there are phones with higher resolution front-facing cameras, but what gives this one the edge over some others is the software which supports that camera. Images are clear, sharp, and the AI is pretty consistent in the way it processes images. Some cameras have a hard time with my beard, but Pixel phones are very consistent with how they handle it. The Pixel does a fine job in ideal daylight, harsh sunlight, and in low light on that front-facing camera. And turning the phone around to the rear, your 12 megapixel wide and 16 megapixel ultra wide cameras will produce consistent images as well, but it's the harsher conditions that you want to pay attention to. In areas where some phones will blow out highlights in the images, those areas where the light or sunlight spotlights one section in particular, then kind of washes out that portion of the image. It loses detail. The Pixel seems to actually mitigate and process those areas fairly well. You can see how it handles that with these yellow benches which were being hit with direct sunlight. The hot spots on the front of the benches where the sun was hitting isn't washed out. There's still detail in the image there. Same thing with this reflective sign which the sun was also hitting directly. It's a bit soft as you crop in, but it still looks great given how much sun was hitting it and being reflected. It's also in the night shots where you'll see how this phone handles image processing better than some other phones. At my metro stop, you'll notice the amount of detail in the palm fronds and tree trunks, the amount of contrast and the relative lack of noise or graininess in the photos. And with the Pixel, even the wide-angle camera is relatively sharp and has really good detail and contrast compared to wide-angle night shots I've taken with other phones. After taking these same photos with numerous cameras, I can tell you that the Pixel is among my top 5 most consistent smartphones. Probably top 3 when it comes to low light capture. So, at the end of the day, given the 5G phones in this price range, between $300 and $500, is the Pixel 4a 5G still a top contender in 2021? Yes, it's a top contender, but the competition is tough, and some folks may be willing to forego a touch of camera quality for price. Phones like OnePlus's Nord N10 5G, for example, present a compelling option to the 4a 5G, especially given the fact that you can find it for less than $300 on some sites. In 2020, I chose the 4a as my favorite phone for most people, but in 2021, it's hard to make that same claim for its predecessor. Stay tuned to the channel for a comparison of what I think are the top 3 or 4 low-cost 5G phones in 2021 and my overall pick for the best one for most users who would be the type to keep phones for years and are looking for that 5G upgrade without breaking the bank. Hey, I'm Tshaka Armstrong. I don't take it lightly that you've watched here with us. If you have any questions that I didn't answer in the video, please leave them in the comments below. I'll get to them. Love chatting with you all here. As always, thank you for watching. Catch you in the next video.